Hey guys, this is a deck tech, an ally deck tech. My commander is General Tazri, 5-drop, 4 and a white. Whenever General Tazri enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an ally creature card, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. And for 1 Wooburg, that's 1 of each color, ally creatures you control get +X until end of turn, where X is the number of colors among those creatures. So, General Tazri wants to get you allies, and he wants to make his allies big, alright? So that's the whole thing with the deck. So with any commander deck, you start with the lands. Let's start with some basics. I have 3 basic mountains. I like the Battle for Zendikar full art ones. 2 basic swamps. 3 basic plains. 2 basic islands. This one's a Lorwyn one. Nice. And 2 basic forests. So that covers your basics. Next I have, I call them utility lands, but they could be something else. Let's start with Opal Palace, Breakout Land, and Commander. General Tazri is going to get targeted a lot. So every time, this helps, because every time you recast him, he gets bigger. I don't, I'm sorry. But anyway, adds 1/1 counters for that. Command Tower is probably the best land in Commander, because it taps for any 1 color of your commander's identity. And Tazri is white, but because the pump ability is Wooburg, you can use this for 5 colors. Cavern of Souls is probably the best land for tribal. Your allies can't be countered with this. It's really awesome. And it's $50. That needs to change. Reliquary Tower. Probably in every commander deck ever, because you draw so many cards. You have no maximum hand size. Ally Encampment is basically Cavern of Souls for allies, but it just taps for any 1 color to cast a creature spell. No no uncounterable ability. And Mana Confluence, because it's better than City of Brass, because City of Brass deals 1 damage to you every time it's tapped, so your opponents can tap your land and you take 1 damage. It's happened to me before. So Mana Confluence is just for fixing. Past that, we have Fetch lands, since this is a 5-color deck. I have a Bloodstained Mire, a Windswept Heath, a Wooded Foothills, and a Flooded Strand. Just 4. I'd probably put Polluted Delta in there as well, but I don't have one at the moment. I have 1 of each shock. So we have Breeding Pool, Hallowed Fountain, Temple Garden, Blood Crypt, Godless Shrine, Steam Vents, Stomping Ground, Overgrown Tomb, Watery Grave, nice Ravnica one, and Sacred Foundry. So these help a lot with mana fixing. They're basically dual lands, except they shock you, which means they deal 2 damage to come in untapped, or you just have to wait another turn. They're still pretty good. I have 1 of each of these Battle for Zendikar Tango lands, or Have lands, if you should call them that. So Smoldering Marsh, Prairie Stream, Canopy Vista, Sunken Hollow, and Cinderglade. And finally, 3 Tri-Lanes. Frontier Bivouac, Sandstep Citadel, and Mystic Monastery. So, let's just get into the allies, because you're going to have a lot of them. Mina and Den Wildborn is great, especially early on, because you can play an additional land per turn, and you can bounce a land and give one of your creatures trample later in the game. Really great. Veteran War Leader. He gets bigger the more creatures you have. Also, you can tap an untapped ally you control and give him either First Strike, Vigilance, or Trample until end of turn. Awesome. Angelic Captain gets +1/+1 for each attacking ally you control. And Resolute Blade Master gives all your allies double strike. Amazing. Tazri Beastmaster is an Anthem effect. All your allies get +1/+1 until end of turn, and that stacks. So if more than one ally comes in, say I play a token spell like Allied Reinforcements or Unified Front, you get that trigger every time. Tazri Archer picks off flyers. You deal X amount of damage to target creature with flying, where X is the number of allies you control. Tazri Warcaller is a better Beastmaster because it gives all your allies +2/+2 until end of turn, and this also stacks. So, Harabaz Druid is my mana dork. Tap her to add X mana to any one color to your mana pool, and you spend it for anything. But X is the number of allies you control. Turn Temper Ranger is probably one of my favorite allies. He makes himself bigger by adding 1/1 counters for each ally that comes in, and he also makes 2/2 wolves. Sweet. Ornery Survivalist makes himself bigger, just puts a +1/+1 counter on him. Great early drop. Marasa Pyromancer deals damage to target creature equal to the number of allies you control. So, really sweet. Ondu Cleric gains me life equal to the number of allies I control, and this happens whenever any ally comes into the battlefield. So, really awesome. Makendi Patrol gives all my allies Vigilance. Kazandu Blademaster, another one that's great early, but he has First Strike and Vigilance as well. Hero of Gomafada makes all of my allies indestructible. Really sweet. Hada Freeblade is probably the best 1-drop in this deck. If you have this turn 1, plains this, great. He just buffs himself up every time an ally comes in. Chasm Guide gives all my allies haste. Akun Battlesinger is another Anthem effect. Gives all my allies +1/+0 until end of turn, and this also stacks. Ondu Champion gives all my allies Trample. Firemantle Mage gives all my allies Menace. Tuk Tuk Scrapper blows up artifacts and deals damage equal to the number of allies I control to that artifact's controller. Really sweet. Kazul Warlord adds +1/+1 counters to all your allies every time another ally comes in. And those +1 counters stay. Highland Berserker gives all my allies First Strike. Agadim Occultist is really great if someone has something really big in their graveyard and I want to take it. I can just tap him and take that creature, target creature from an opponent's graveyard if its converted mana cost is less than or equal to the number of allies I control. Hagrid Diabolist is basically the same thing as Ondu Cleric. It just deals damage to target player instead of gains me life, equal to the number of allies I control. Zulaport Cutthroat is good for board wipes because anytime any of my allies die, every other opponent loses 1 life and I gain 1 life. So, Alligator Thief is great for getting big spells and really impactful things out of my opponent's hands, because I can just choose target player and they give me as many cards as equal to the number of allies I control. So usually their whole hand by the time I use this. And I get to discard one of their cards. But it does make me a target, so. CA Lordmaster is my card draw engine. I can tap him and draw a card for each ally I control. Halimar Excavator's a sweet card, but I've never really gotten it to go off. It's a mill card, so target player mills as many cards as allies I control whenever an ally comes into the battlefield. Umara Raptor is the same thing as Hada Freeblade or Oran Reef Survivalist. It just makes itself bigger, but this one has flying, making it a little bit better. Lantern Scout gives all my allies lifelink. Galastria Healer, whenever an ally comes into the battlefield, or whenever he comes into the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life and I gain 1 life. So, really sweet. But it also makes me a target. Drawer Shapeshifter copies any one ally on the battlefield. So usually I copy Tajura Warcaller, because I like that Anthem effect a lot. But you can copy any of your allies. Skyscape Aerialist gives all my allies flying. Super important. And I tutor up with Tazri a lot. And I believe that's all the allies. So let's move on to the artifacts. Stoneforge Masterwork I usually only put on Tazri if I want to get commander damage in. It's basically coat of arms for 1 creature as an equipment. And speaking of that, I have coat of arms, which if you're running a tribal strategy in any EDH deck, you need coat of arms, because each creature gets +1/+1 for each creature that shares a creature type with it. So allies get super huge with this on. Soul Ring, because it's a commander deck, and Soul Ring's awesome. Minion Reflector, because allies have a lot of ETB effects, so I can make a token of an ally that I control with this, and then it sacrifices that token at the end of the turn by paying an extra 2 colorless mana. So I like to have this out just to get those extra ETB effects in. Belby's Portal is a good early thing, but it's really great late as well. I can choose a creature type, ally of course, and tap it for 3 colorless mana, and just put an ally into the battlefield from my hand. Door of Destinies is awesome. Whenever I cast an ally, these are all creature intensive things, so I choose ally. Whenever I cast an ally, it gets a counter on it. And for every counter on it, all my ally creatures get +1/+1 for each counter. So they get super huge with this. Adaptive Automaton is a creature, but I put it in the artifact pile. It's basically an Anthem effect for all my allies, because you choose ally and it becomes an ally, and other ally creatures get +1/+1. Darksteel Ingot is there for fixing. It's a mana rock for any 1 color. Choose any 1 color and add 1 mana to your mana pool. Demonic Tutor. If you're running black in commander deck, you need this card. It tutors for any card, and it just goes straight to your hand. You have to shuffle your library, but I mean, you do a lot of that in commander anyway. Unified Front is one of those things that I was talking about earlier. It has Converge, so usually I'll tap 4 colors and I'll get 4 core ally tokens in, which gets a lot of ETB effects. Really sweet. Worldly Tutor searches for creature cards, but you have to put the creature card on the top of your library. So it's not as good as Demonic Tutor, but it's still pretty good. And it's a 1-drop. Ghostway, I would love to get off in a game yet, but I haven't gotten it off yet. It blinks all of your creatures until end of turn. So say someone board wipes, and you go Ghost Way, and then everyone else's creatures die, but yours stay, and they come back at the end of the turn, and all the ETB effects happen again. I really want it to happen, but it hasn't happened yet. Savage Beating is probably the best card in the deck. You can choose either to give all your creatures double strike until end of turn, or have an additional combat phase after your combat phase. Or you can entwine it for 7 mana, which I usually do. And you can kill multiple people in a turn with this. Aura Shards, in any creature deck, this is great. It's better in token strategies, but I put it in here anyway. You can, whenever a creature comes into the battlefield, you can destroy target artifact or enchantment. Really sweet. Flame Shadow Conjuring is Minion Reflector, but it's red. And you only have to pay 1 red for it. But instead of sacrificing the permanent, you exile the token permanent, so it's basically the same thing. March from the Tomb is just in case any of my allies die. I can get any ally creature cards up to converted mana cost 8, so I usually get a lot of allies with this. Distant Melody is another card draw one, but it's tribal, so choose a target creature type, so ally, and draw that many cards for the number of permanents you have that are allies. Ally Reinforcements just makes 2 knight allies, so ETB triggers. And because this is a tribal deck, I need protection. So I have Avacyn to make all my permanents indestructible. And just in case there's something else that I need, I have Clever Impersonator, which can copy anything on the battlefield, any non-land permanent on the battlefield. So that's really sweet. Ready and Willing is awesome. If you fuse it, all your creatures get Death Touch, Indestructible, and Lifelink until end of turn. Really awesome. Call to the Kindred is an enchantment that I like to put on either Tazri or one of my bigger allies. At the beginning of my upkeep, I get to look at the top 5 cards of my library and put a creature card that shares a creature type with target creature that this aura is on, and put it straight into the battlefield. So I just get allies. Retreat to Emeria. It makes ally tokens with a landfall trigger, or it gives a small anthem effect by giving creatures +1/+1 until end of turn. Zendikar Resurgent doubles my mana, and because I'm running a creature deck, it lets me draw cards every time I play a creature spell, so it's really sweet. And finally, Cathar's Crusade, which is ridiculous. Every time a creature comes into the battlefield, you put a 1/1 counter on each other creature you control. So it's sick. And that concludes my ally deck tech. I hope you enjoyed it. Give me some feedback, because I would love to continue improving this deck. It's really fun to play. You know, like any commander deck, it's the luck of the draw, but it's really fun, and I would love to continue playing it. So help me with my mana base in the comments below, or if you want, or give me suggestions of what to cut or what to add. And I hope to get another video up soon. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.